From Wada Brands, welcome to Enhance Your Life. I'm your host, Jonathan Small, and each week I talk to people from all sorts of professions and backgrounds about how cannabis has enhanced their lives and how this healing plant can enrich your life too. Hey everybody, welcome to the Enhance Your Life podcast. My name is John Small and I am your host. We've got a really fun guest today. Joesh Savage is in the house, and Joesh and his good friend Abdullah Saeed are the founders of The Shit Show. That's S.H.I.T., which is an LA-based stand-up comedy show that is described as canna-centric in nature. They created the show as a platform to showcase their funny friends and the finest sponsors, and their bigger goal is to educate and dismantle all the stigmas around cannabis, and what better way to do it than through humor. So, Joesh, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, John.
First, let's start with the good origin story here. How did The Shit Show, and is that how we say it, The Shit Show? Or is it the S-H?
It is The Shit Show. It's hard to even market The Shit Show because you really can't advertise for it anywhere. Yeah,
so maybe we should say, how does the S-H-I-T show?
The Smoke Herb It's Trendy show. That's actually what it's an acronym for Smoke Herb It's Trendy.
Okay.
When we started The Shit Show, we were coming off of the throes of Bon Appetit and filming 30 episodes or something like that for Vice.
So explain what that is. That is a show that's on Vice explain what Bon Appetit is.
So Bon Appetit is a cannabis cooking show on Vice that I had the pleasure of working with Abdullah on in 2017. And it's a James Beard Award nominated cooking show, which is bizarre in the fact that it's its first cannabis cooking show ever to be nominated for a James Beard Award, let alone being the first cannabis cooking show on television ever. That being said, we had a great time filming it. And when we were done with Bon Appetit after about a couple of years, Abdullah moved to LA and moved in with me. And we were just trying to think of things to do. He started doing stand-up comedy, thanks to a friend and a guest from the show, Jade Catapretta, and Reggie Watts got him into doing some stand-up. And then next thing you know, Abdullah is wanting to do stand-up. And so he's taken this path of his writing. And I was like, this is a great opportunity for me, somebody who produces events and likes to do live shows and talk shit.
Your background is not comedy, right? That's not what your background is.
No, I'm not a comedy writer. I'm not a stand-up comedian. I'm just a shithead from LA who likes to have a good time. And so I just thought that it would be a good idea to host a night of stand-up comedy at one of my favorite venues in Los Angeles at El Cid. And when we were going back and forth with names, we wanted to have something with cannabis in it or something along the lines of that, but we didn't want to have it. The cannabis show. So we called it The Shit Show, the Smoke Herb It's Trendy show, because herb at the time was very trendy. You had soccer moms coming out of the woodwork smoking herb, and a lot of people who you'd normally not associate with cannabis now all of a sudden associating themselves and profiting from it. So we figured, let's just call it The Shit Show, because it's what's happened so far during this regulation of cannabis.
Is the Smoke Herb It's Trendy show a scripted show? Do you guys do improv? Talk about how it rolls out.
So the format came of we wanted to do something that involved bringing cannabis sponsors, bringing comedians all in the same room with a live audience, and just seeing the reaction. And the reaction that we had off of our first one was tremendous. We had DJ Doug Pound come through with a bunch of other very funny comedians from Los Angeles. Jade Catapretta, of course, I said before, being one of them. And Abdullah had a chance to really get out there and flex his writing and comedy chops. And it's really inspired me to get more into the development and writing of jokes to perform on stage. And so that being said, I come from a DJ background and promotion background. So I just figured might as well put that away and then kind of help my buddy out, get up on the stage. And that's how the Shit Show was born. And we found ourselves just bringing in really good talent. The response from our sponsors was great. And then we just added more sponsors and started bringing more products and brands to the light of stand-up comedy and the audience that was there already. People that go to comedy shows are already loose anyway. They're not the most conservative of people. So they're going out there to have a few drinks and have a good time and have laughs. That's what we like to do with The Shit Show. And then in that, we can educate people about, hey, look, cannabis isn't that bad. There are tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people that are locked up for non-cannabis crimes, non-violent cannabis-related crimes. And we want to somehow break that stigma and get those people out of jail. And if somebody on Wall Street's making a bunch of money off cannabis right now, then we should be opening the doors for a lot of locked up Black and brown people. And so that's the platform that we stand on. And then we want to use comedy as just a way to to administer that knowledge and that kind of mindset of we're not as bad as you think. We're funny people, and it's a shit show out here, so let's all have a fun time and relax for a little bit.
Now, are you performing as well, or are you just writing the jokes and stuff? Are you up on stage?
No, I'm like the hype man.
Yeah.
So my guy Abdullah will come out, and I'll hype the crowd up, and I'll DJ in the back, and I'll cue the intro music on stage. Instead of sitting in a booth and cueing it there, I kind of do it live. So it has that effect or feel of like, oh, there's a DJ on stage. It gives it almost like a talk showy type vibe, but then we let our stand-ups get up and do their thing for a 10 or 12 or whatever it is.
You're like the Quest. You're like the Quest love of.
Exactly. There's it's all love here. It's all love, baby. Minus the fro and the drumming ability.
Let's take a listen to some moments from the shit show.
A lot of you, it's clear, have not left the house in a long time. Who is this for whom is this the first thing you're doing back out? Anybody here? A few people.
Wow, that's brave.
Okay, cool.
Right.
Somebody just tested positive for COVID at the ticket booth. So
Check your phone.
don't be deterred. I'm joking. No, we're doing a comedy show. It's okay. It's okay. And if you're vaccinated, I think you'll be all right. I'm vaccinated. Who here is vaccinated? Yeah? Who got the Pfizer joint? Who's got the Pfizer joint coursing through their veins? Who's got that Moderna heat? All right. Who else has the Kirkland signature brand that I got? Nobody? Why does nobody else have it?
Baby powder, people. I went baby powder all day long.
Yeah, I know. You totally got yours out of the trunk of somebody's car, didn't you? So I'm pretty sure I want to confront this on stage. This is one of my best friends here, and I'm pretty sure he's been lying to me about being vaccinated this entire fucking time. Because I was like, Joesh, did you get vaccinated before our show? And he was like, yeah, I got that Johnson & Johnson. And you know anybody who says they got Johnson & Johnson is full of shit. Nobody has that one. It's not that one was made up. They were like, just call it one of like a shampoo brand people are comfortable with, and they'll believe. They'll fucking believe it.
We also had Rachel Wolfson, Wolfie Comedy. She was also at the last show. She's one of our staple and our favorite go-to funny weed stoner girls to go to. She's just a hilarious comedian.
Let's take a listen to Rachel.
I'm in probably like 3 hours of therapy a week when I attend. It's all on Zoom. It's terrible. Any kind of therapy, any kind of anything on Zoom. I'm the only one who comes to group therapy with punchlines, first off. So, but like the other day, I accidentally told my therapist I loved her. Right before we got off the phone, I was like, I love you. Click. Everything we worked on that session just went right out the window. And so, like, I felt so invalidated. I was like, I sent her a text. I was like, hey, I didn't mean to tell you I loved you. And then that felt rude, so I sent her another text. I was like, hey, I do love you. I just didn't mean to tell you that. And then she sends back a picture of a teddy bear blowing me a kiss. So we're going to talk about that in therapy next week. So much to unpack.
And here's Josh Adam Myers.
DUIs aren't funny. Or are they? That's the question. My first one was quite humorous. My first one, I was 19 years old, and I was leaving a party in Baltimore, and I was driving to the Washington, D.C. area, and I was taking the back roads to get home, and I was driving like a 19-year-old. I was fucking going 80 miles an hour, blaring Metallica, just master, fucking yeah, just fucking off to the races, and the road curved, and I overcompensated, and then I crashed into a ditch, and me and my buddy got out of the car. We were both fine, just really like beaten up from just like the seat belts and all that shit, so we're battered and bruised, and we walk out, and within like 30 seconds, there's like 8 cop cars there because there's nothing to do in that town, and none of that, of course, is funny, but what was funny was while they were doing the sobriety test, the like 4 cops couldn't get my car's radio off. So it was just like, give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire. Landmine has taken my sight, And I got so into it because they were like, have you had anything to drink tonight? And I was like, no, yeah. No, yeah.
What makes your performances canna-centric? There is a kind of almost stereotype about weed humor, which is, for better or worse, it's funny. I mean, it all kind of started with like Cheech and Chong. Then there's like the Seth Rogen types, you know, and the Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Tell us how your humor is different a little bit.
We like to pepper in like weed comedians. We call them weed comedians or whatever. They're just comedians that talk about weed. And nowadays, cannabis is such a forefront on everyone's mind that everyone's talking about it. So everyone's now really a weed comedian. Everyone has a little bit of a cannabis joke. But there are people who are great, who are just canna-centric. They just talk about weed all the time. They go out there and they just knock it out the park with their weed humor. And that's one of our greatest attributes. And having Abdullah sit there and speak on it from his perspective is great too, because a lot of his jokes come from real life shit. Him being a Pakistani guy in America who smokes weed. And that's like, for him, you know, probably a big no-no, but he's a great trailblazer. And I think that's why he's at the spot where he's at right now.
Yeah, really caught on.
So, yeah, and it's really been a great avenue to bring in regular standard comedians who have a great comedy presence, and then also bring in weed comedians or people who talk about cannabis and getting high and have that good mixture. Because once you have the audience there and they're all stoned, every joke is a fucking hand grenade. You know, it's a 3-second delay and, oh shit, did you hear that? So sometimes we're backstage like, oh man, is this person really funny? It's like, oh yeah, the jokes are hitting later because people are high as hell.
That's hilarious.
Pre-game.
So the audience doesn't.
You know, they come in pregame. Yeah. And then they just know that after the show that they're going to get a bunch more access to products and brands after the show. So it's great.
It's too bad you can't probably smoke cannabis legally at these events yet because of zoning laws.
It's funny you say that. We've just started doing events now in Palm Springs at a location called the Vault Dispensary Lounge. And we've teamed up with a great comedian and promoter. His name's Zach Miller, and he does the Hemperor's Comedy. And Zach has gotten us into the Vault, and Abdullah lives down in Palm Springs. So it works out perfectly. The last Friday of every month, we actually go into a cannabis dispensary lounge where they are allowed to smoke inside, and they can medicate while they watch the show. And so sometimes, you know, you'll be there and 3, 4, 5 people will be smoking a joint while you're on stage.
Right. I mean, it's just crazy that people can drink, but they can't smoke in a lot of places, which is crazy.
Exactly. You can literally poison your body with liquor, but yet the minute you put any type of herbal medicine inside of it, people start to look at you different and cockeyed. It's just fucking weird. It's a weird double standard.
So at one point, the show had to shut down. What happened? Explain to us what happened there.
We were doing great. We had 12 solid shows, 13 solid shows up until March 2020. And like everybody else, we experienced the throes of the pandemic and what was going to happen. And the shutdown happened, and so did our show. We shut down for 14 months, I think it was. We came back in July, so longer than that. You know,
so because of the pandemic, you just had to shut down. I mean, everything.
A lot of people took it online, and Abdullah and I were thinking, oh, we don't want to just like go online with a Zoom show, or everyone's just really waiting it out. And I think that people were exploring other creative avenues, and just everyone's mindset was changing about how they were going to approach life after the pandemic. I think mine, especially, I can't speak for Abdullah, but for mine is, let's try to get things as back to normal as possible. Having a shit show where people can come in and sit down, enjoy themselves safely. Once July hit, people were getting the vaccine and numbers were dropping and very low transmission rates. We decided to open it back up. And now here we are a month later, and we're like, fuck Delta variant, you know? So we're just trying to get along with the rest of it. Now we're going to have the show outdoors for probably a couple months, because we only do the first Wednesday of every month. So it's like, you come to the show, there's a lot of weed comedy shows, a lot of comedy shows in LA in general. Stand-up comedy is a big thing out here. We're not like New York. We don't have stages. We have mics. So you go to a mic as much as you can to get seen if you want to be in any type of entertainment. So that being said, if you want to make a name for yourself, you usually get on a mic somewhere. So we only have one opportunity a month to get our show and our people seen, but those people are traveling in the comedy group. You know, it's different mics all over the place. But our show is special because you can come and get high at our show afterwards and hang out with the comedians and get free weed or whatever it is. Like, we have a kid that will come and just roll up joints for people, you know, on his own accord. You know, like just like, I like you guys so much, I want to do this.
Right. That's nice to be the cannabis roller. it's more than just stand-up, right? Some of the acts are music, right? Any sketch stuff, or is it just?
Yeah, no, we've had character actors like George Avialotis coming through and do like a 10-minute kind of a monologue or caricature of somebody famous. We've had people like Video Dave come through, which is a great performer and a funny guy who is a musician at heart and foremost musician, but also has a lot of comedy and irony in his lyrics. So I like to always bring him on board. He's from a comedy background as well. And Zach Selwyn, a friend of mine from the G4 days, who's a brilliant just lyricist and musician and is a country guy, but can freestyle at the drop of a hat. The top of any bar, he can start freestyling. It's the weirdest thing to see. So we like to try to mix it up and have different acts like that come in, musical acts, maybe beginning or at the end. And so it's not just stand-up comedy, mic, haha, joke. You'll have a little bit of difference in there, variety.
Let's talk about your own experience with cannabis. When did you start using cannabis in your life?
Oh, gosh. I come from a cop background, so my dad was a cop, so I didn't really living in Hermosa Beach. That's probably one of the most prevalently used drugs at the beach. Everyone's smoking pot, and remember my dad just being like, "If you ever want to do anything, just tell me about it, and we can do it at the house." I'm like, that sounds like a fucking cop thing to say. And I'm not falling for that. I don't think my dad ever thought or never knew. I've never confessed that, hey, I smoke pot. But I started slowly around 17, 18 years old, becoming like a habitual, almost daily smoker. Sometime after the Chronic, in between Snoop Dogg and the Chronic, I became a smoker.
Right.
So 94-ish, 95, 96.
Was the Chronic, and I think you see Snoop Dogg and so your dog piped up. Was the Chronic...
Yeah, you guys talking about me?
Yeah. Was the Chronic...
like my favorite guy.
Was the Chronic influential in your pot smoking, or is it just a coincidence that was around the time?
No, it was very influential. I mean, before the album The Chronic, you weren't calling cannabis Chronic. You weren't calling it that. The Cron, the Chronics, the Cron Dog, or whatever. You were calling it weed or pot. Hey, how do we get some pot? Still, and a lot of it was either swag or it was really nice stuff. Yeah. And so once became like a nomenclature in modern West Coast society, like, hey, this is Chronic. This is what you should be looking for. No sticks, no stems, no seeds. Just that real sticky icky, ooh-wee. Like that was what I was raised on. Imagine me like a 16-year-old kid driving around in a Blazer, playing the shit off of a fucking tape. And I'm just like, this is speaking right to my psyche. This is exactly what I'm talking about. And I don't know why it stuck so closely with me, probably because of my background. And I was trying to separate myself so much from that kind of police mentality.
Yeah. Did it cause a lot of rift with your family?
I smoked cigarettes, but my father never knew I smoked pot. So he always just saw me as a cigarette smoker and was just like, don't smoke cigarettes. And if you smoke pot, don't smoke that either. But I don't think my father ever knew that I smoked pot. And I think if he did, he would probably just tell me to quit.
Yeah.
He was a very chill, laid back guy.
So this show is called Enhance Your Life, and we talked to a lot of different people about how pot has enhanced their lives. How has it enhanced your life? How has it added to your life?
Here's the thing about pot. It's its own community. So people that smoke weed, they're in this weed community. You know what I'm saying? They have their own language and their own dialogue in between each other. That's how they talk. And that's a great thing to be a part of. Every little social circle has its own kind of setting, but cannabis really speaks to me, especially coming from the West Coast. And so enhancing my life with cannabis started out just thinking that I was going to be funnier or more creative smoking weed. And a lot of times it helped. At the time I was trying to be an actor. It wouldn't help me with lines, but it helped me develop characters and loosen up enough to be available on stage or to open up and do weird shit in front of a director. That being said, I transitioned from trying to be an actor into now what I do is producing and I work on the crew a lot. So I'll DP or I'll do, my mainstay is audio these days. So I'm an audio supervisor and we're just known for smoking pot anyway. So if you're the audio guy on set, everyone knows you're a fucking stoner. And I come from a DJ background. So you're a fucking ultra stoner if you're a DJ and an audio. So it helps me in the fact that before there was regulation or legalization of cannabis, it was my social lubricant into getting into certain sects of society. Getting into the entertainment business is not that easy. But if you have weed and a couple people that smoke it, it's probably pretty easy for you to get like a PA job or slide into a production.
So it's a bit of a social, it's a community, like you said. Yeah.
It's a social lubricant. So that being said, cannabis would always break down a barrier between me and a higher up, above the liner. So like when I say that, I'm a PA, and then you have a producer up here who gets paid a lot of money and I'm getting paid nothing. And so between that is a lot of tension. And sometimes the cannabis will dismiss that tension. And I've had a lot of people who I've become friends with who were executive producers, vice presidents of networks, lawyers, doctors, who maybe would never say, hey, I'm going to hang out with this guy who is uneducated, kind of crass. And the cannabis effect will make it so that we will actually have something common to stand on. And then that will break down to other things that you'll see that we have in common, maybe musically or food wise or socially, you know. So that being said, it's been such an enhancement from just an early age of just finding out who I am, what I want to do with my life, and then what other people are into. It's a really good way to break down
barriers,
stigma, barriers, big time.
That's really interesting. Tell me a little bit about the future of the shit show. Do you know, you got this, the Vice show was on, the Bong Appetit. Is there a future, you think, in television for this show, or streaming? We don't even call it television anymore. Where we call it? Like, right. Will we take it?
We've been hoping that would be something that would become a dream of ours. You know, we would take this little comedy show and be able to just package it up and like give it to Comedy Central or something like that. But there's like I said, there's a lot of these shows around in and around Los Angeles. We have the means to record it. We've recorded a few of them, line cuts and everything, to present to producers and executives. But I just don't think that we're quite there yet. We would love to see this show take on a form of something that people could enjoy by just tuning in either on Netflix or whatever and watching an hour or an hour and a half of a few different comedians talk about weed and mix it up with music and mix it up with skits and mix it up with stuff like that. That would be a great opportunity for not just Abdullah, but myself and all the other comedians involved.
So if people want to find out more about the show, how they can see it, is there a Instagram, website? What's the best way to find out about it?
I think the best way to find out about our shit show is to just go to our Instagram, which is theshitshow.la. And there we'll have blurbs, and we'll definitely have flyers up there. We come on and we'll do stories, and we'll talk about the brands that we're working with. We've been trying to make more content, short form content for social media platforms so that people can just kind of get a glimpse of the funny that we're doing. And like that, we're probably going to develop a website soon enough. This, like I said, we've only done 12, 13 shows. This is our 14th show coming up, I believe. With my schedule and with Abdullah's schedule, we still don't have the bandwidth to do a weekly comedy night or a nightly comedy show. It's a lot of work. Producing a live show, it's a lot of work. And I pretty much do it with just myself and Abdullah and our friend Damon. It's a labor of love. We're not getting huge paid numbers off of this. We literally do it so we can have a clubhouse to hang out at once a month with our friends and smoke pot. It's literally just the reason for us to sesh. But we would love to maybe amplify that and get the word out and have people know that, you know, this is something that's been around. We're going to stay around. And if you're in LA, you should come check us out.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to going to a show, especially in Palm Springs. It sounds like that's the place to see you guys because of the ability to actually smoke legally and watch 100%. The show. All right. Well, Joesh Savage, thank you so much for joining the show. And please thank your pup for joining us as well.
Thanks for having me on.
Enhance Your Life is brought to you by Wana, the #1 infused product in North America. Wana's entire process is designed to deliver the same great experience time after time. They have spent years fine-tuning their recipes so that their products are delicious, consistent, and potent. For more information, head on over to wanabrands.com. That's Wana, W-A-N-A, brands.com.